Gentleman yields back, and I recognize myself for 5 minutes. I want to say thank you to witnesses for being here. Mr. Ellis, thanks for being back again. I've got a lot of cover, so I'm going to jump right in. Mr. Copeland, the SEC's legal mandate includes directives to protect investors, facilitate capital formation, and promote efficient markets. How does the dominance of social and policy issues in corporate annual meetings conflict with these objectives?
I think it's generally in tension with them, and the SEC is
Sorry, did you say intentional?
in tension with them, excuse me. So I think there's a conflict there, and this Congress has expressly put on the SEC those words, competition, efficient markets, capital formation, that don't apply in terms of rulemaking in all the other agencies.
Beyond the direct costs, what are the costs incurred by companies in responding to all of these shareholder proposals focused on social or policy issues? There was a study that said 67%, or I believe it was 61% of all proposals were ESG focused last year, which was a twofold increase.
Yeah, I mean, this is the important question, because the direct costs for the large companies are relatively small in terms of how to respond, but the indirect costs are huge. The most valuable thing for your board of directors and for your chief executive C-suite officers is their time, and they have to focus a lot of time on these shareholder proposals that get put on their ballot every year at all these annual meetings.
And very, very few large companies become public, right? I mean, they tend to be smaller companies, so would you view this as a detriment to companies going public?
Absolutely. I mean, when I first testified in front of a subcommittee of this body in 2006, we were talking about the capital markets, and that the number of publicly listed companies is less than half today what it was in the mid-90s at the peak, and this is one of the reasons.
Yeah. What are the costs to shareholders and consumers who primarily are focused on financial performance and long-term value creation?
Well, it hurts their returns. We did a study on this. Tracy Weidke at the University of Tennessee, an economist, looked at the costs of socially activist shareholder proposal activism from public pension funds, and we saw a negative correlation. We did this 8 years ago, a negative correlation between that sort of activity and share valuation at the company. So at the end of the day, if you're investing your retirement and your pension, you're hurt by this activity.
It hurts investors. Okay, thank you. At the beginning of this Congress, Chairman McHenry and myself, Senator Tim Scott, we all sent a letter to Chair Gensler at the SEC requesting documents and information on the climate disclosure rule. To date, we have largely received publicly available information and precious little actual information that has answered any of those questions. In other words, the Commission has stonewalled Congress. Mr. Allen, can you speak to potential consequences if the SEC were to require companies to disclose non-material climate information? How might this affect investor decision-making and the overall efficiency and capital formation of the market? And again, the emphasis is on non-material.
Yeah, no, we think it'll have a significant impact, a negative impact on investors. I mean, investors already are overloaded with a lot of information, even that is material, and it's difficult for them to parse through and identify what information is most useful for them. And if there's a flood of non-material information, particularly information related to emissions that is not material for a particular company, that's just going to further burden investors and make it more difficult for them to make effective buy-sell decisions. The Supreme Court, had it right when it looked at the reasonable investor and the importance of materiality, and there's no reason for the SEC to depart from that standard.
All right, thank you. Mr. Zeicher, I want to address a couple of things to you. The climate rule attempts to assess the costs of the new disclosure requirements to individual business, but does not address the potential for increased energy costs more broadly to society. We've asked for this information, how it could potentially raise energy costs, but it's been very limited and no actual underlying analysis, which is what we were asking for. It does say on page 401 of the proposed rule that it could cost energy or cause energy costs to go up. Are you aware of any analysis conducted by the SEC on the proposed rule's impact on energy prices? And do you agree it would be prudent to better understand those costs before proceeding?
Yeah, no, I've not seen any analysis from the SEC staff or any other organization working with them on the effect of the proposal on energy prices.
That's because they won't give the parameters for anybody else to do the analysis.
Well, yeah, I just have not seen anything like that. The problem is that there are two different components. One
My
is,
time, so unfortunately, my time has expired, but I will follow up and love to get your written answer.